To the Acer Team Strike Cup. This is a best of 9 between these two teams. With Complexity, Dignitas, the alliance between those two teams, fighting against Mouseports right now. And currently leading at the moment 2-1. It's in the bottom right corner of the map, the red Terran player, HeroMarine. And his opponent over yonder, he is blue, he's Protoss! He's also incredibly handsome and full of tattoos, ladies and gentlemen. Ding, or Bling. So the D, the Bling. Dignitas is Bling. There you go, let's do that properly. Now you guys may have seen him kind of on and about. He doesn't do a whole lot of streaming, and he's not exactly the most prevalent player when it comes to like being consistent with weekly tournaments or things. You do see him in the odd go for StarCraft here and there. But I think he's also, if I'm not mistaken, I think he's also one of those people that's kind of half and half with StarCraft as he's going to school as well. Maybe I'm wrong on that entirely. I don't actually know Bling that well. I haven't got to cast a lot of his matches, but from what I understand, he does go to quite a few lands, more so than he does online cups, which would explain why we don't get to see him a whole lot here on Base Trade TV. But regardless of how good versus bad Bling is, guys, bottom line is he's coming up against HeroMarine, and HeroMarine has been somewhat untouchable since he got played in the last Acer Team Story Cup, since he got played in this Acer Team Story Cup. We'll see how Bling fares here on Ultra Team Stronghold. You know, it's a bit funny thinking back on this too. You can hold HeroMarine to as high regard as you like, but one of the things that's kind of interesting to consider is he's probably fallible to the same mistakes that even some of the better players make. Like, for example, Joxy. The only time you rarely see Joxy struggle in TVP right now is the odd time Phoenixes get involved. And even then, it's not even like he loses every single time. If Bling's got it in him, I think Colossus Phoenix on this map might be his ticket to victory versus HeroMarine. But that being said, not going to be easy to pull off. Even if you know how to execute it, it's not something that can be executed perfectly, because a lot of it's going to rely on how HeroMarine handles the matchup. Now, it's worth noting, too, HeroMarine, he's got, I don't know, crazy X-ray vision or something. Observers have been sniped off every single game, and there's not really been a lot used against him in the last series, and I don't think that'll change much here. And for Bling, you know, oftentimes I talk about how the Terran player needs to keep an eye on the Protoss player, and I don't think that changes in the slightest. But for Bling coming against HeroMarine, once it gets to that 8-minute mark, he needs an observer in his base. He needs some sort of like scouting to see what HeroMarine's doing, because it's very important to tell whether a Terran player has got 8 barracks versus 5, double engineering base versus 1, double starport production, even for goodness sake. Typically you don't rush out 2 starports though, you know, you save that second one for like way later in the game, because you'll eventually need 4 Vikings at a time versus Colossus, but not in the early game, not early on at least. Okay, well, he might get a probe kill. Nope. The problem is when you go for the Cybercore Warp Gate tech first, your Mothership core gonna be a little bit delayed here. It wasn't the case here, but it flew out of the base. So either way, it just ends up being a little unfortunate here for Bling, and he's gonna take a probe loss. Typically, you don't lose any probes to this if handled correctly, so not a good start for him. But 1 probe does not a game make, and he's still fine, good to go. But I was gonna say, the only times Reapers really get in to do that much damage is if you go for the Warp Tech first and forego your Mothership Core, or alternatively, if the Mothership Core is outside of the base. Either way, it just kind of didn't work out. Another probe gonna go down, but will he see the Stargate? HeroMarine. Oh, HeroMarine. If you hadn't gotten greedy for that probe, I think he would have gone back up that ramp and seen that Stargate. Now back at home, he's already got a reactor down, so I mean, he's kind of prepared for the Stargate regardless. We saw him do this last series, and we'll see him do it again, I imagine, where you stick 6 Marines in each mineral line. It's become a necessity at this point. Oracles, they're still good versus Terran. That's not something that's fallen out of fashion in any way, shape, or form. But one of the key things is, you know, a lot of Terran players are now starting to get ready for it. They immediately throw down those 6 Marines. They don't risk it. They put down earlier engineering bays, as we see our Marine do. I think he'll hold off on building a turret if he can, but it's not an Oracle coming out of this, but in fact going to be Phoenixes. And this is a very interesting choice out of Bling. Again, this is a strategy, so let me elaborate on this a bit. This might just be for 1 or 2. If this is for 1 or 2, the idea is that they kind of focus somewhat to, I guess, act like Mutalisks, you know, float around the map, snipe off what they can for drops, pick off medevacs. But if he goes higher than 2, if this is like 3 or 5 or 7 or more, this is definitely going to be something he's going to want to pair with Colossus. Now, there's 2 big drawbacks to this. One is that, yeah, okay, he's going to go for more. One of the first biggest drawbacks is, you know, you don't have a great army composition in the early game. Phoenixes can do a lot of damage, but they can't pick up infinite units. And if HeroMarine was going for like let's just say this was blindly 5 racks, right? Like, Something really dumb, something really newbie. If this was like 1 base, 5 racks, no tech, he pushes, he wins. There's nothing to really stop him other than an overcharge, maybe a force out at the ramp, you know. But I'm talking about the straight up army value. The problem with Phoenixes is they kind of leave a hole in your army. Now these first two flying over the base kind of look like they might be hallucinations, but they're not. They are in fact real. And forced to fly away. Now the reason this becomes so problematic, guys, for a lot of Terran players, obviously if you have like 8 or 10 Marines, you're not too worried about Phoenixes, because even if they dive in to pick up the Marines rate of fire is fast enough that they'll kill a Phoenix. It becomes more problematic later on. You are shut down from doing drops. The second you see Phoenixes out, you're not going to make 9 or 12 drop ships, because you know your first medevac is just going to go down the second you try and drop with it. See the Marines on top of this already waiting. The other problem that gets presented with this is later on when it comes to the Vikings. Now, these Phoenixes are actually getting low, so the Viking problem maybe is sorting itself here early on. But Vikings don't deal bonus damage to Phoenix. They're light units. In fact, Phoenix, I believe, win straight up fights, A move versus A move in equal numbers, as long as there's not enough Vikings to one-shot the Phoenix. So typically when you have only 5 or 6... Ooh, this Reaper actually got back in here. It's like, what's killing probes? There's no drop that went out. But the Reaper managed to snipe off a couple more upon its second scout. There's no way he gets out of the base. No way. All right, there we go. Gets picked off. But again, whether it's distracting the Vikings from falling down the Colossus, whether it's actually straight up killing the Vikings, or just again shutting down medevacs, Phoenix are a really hard thing to deal with. And for HeroMarine, I'm certain he's seen this before, but even some of the best Terran players have fallen to this in the past. Well, he actually gets in here just before the turret finishes. The timing on that couldn't have been more perfect. Factory floating here also going to be taken off, so it's forced to land. Never want to just throw this away for free. You need it. You need it to secure about the second starport, more importantly than anything else. But also, Widow Mines can be a big deal later on. Mass Zealot is completely and utterly awful versus Widow Mine. The reason it's nice, okay, so for Zerglings versus Widow Mines, you throw away 1 Zergling. That's like what, 20 minerals, 25 minerals, whatever. And it's a very cheap and inexpensive unit. Whereas you throw a Zealot away for a Widow Mine, the trade is much different. And it's 100 minerals just gone. Plus splash damage, plus shield splash damage. And he does decide to go for a stim on top of the third, not realizing just how exposed this was, but Bling's got no real way to fight this, not without an overcharge. Unfortunately, the Nexus is not done, so a cancel's going to be necessary. A probe gets sniped off as well, but a force field will keep these units out of the base for the time being. Time being kind of the emphasis. Now he does pick up, but let's not forget about those Phoenix guys. Medevacs will not die super fast, but they will be picked off by the Phoenix if not handled correctly. So being very precocious here. He does unload some into the main. He's got Colossus on the way, does Bling, so he's just got to hold out for a little bit longer and he'll be good for the defense. But these Marines, dropping these on the high ground was suicide for HeroMarine. Granted, they're getting a good chunk of damage done, but this is not at all anything close to an even trade. He walks up the ramp and sees the Colossus. If he had focused that down with the Marauder, maybe he could have stimmed in like he just did. But a little bit late to that stim, he's a little too late to the party. Didn't get the pylon, didn't get much of that. HeroMarine disengages, granted having killed more units than his opponent, but not by much. And quite frankly, these medevacs being as low as they are is quite scary. Now, having the Colossus already been revealed at this point, guys, we're going to see Viking production. You get 4 medevacs, that's your magic number. Beyond that, you don't typically make more. He's got 6 in total, because I don't think he quite knew what his opponent was going for. Or maybe he was just worried about the ones that are low. Or maybe it was a misclick. Either way, we got Viking production on the way. Once he's got the money for it, once he secures that third base after this orbital finishes transforming, I guess, in, we'll probably see that second star get thrown down, but for now he's got to be very tentative about engagements. He knows there's no extended thermal lance, he can see that through the range of the Colossus right now, but he doesn't know how long that's going to be for. Snipes off one of the observers over there, sorry, just so I scratched the back of my head. Nice pick off. But it's worth noting, while all this went down, he picked off those Phoenix. I didn't actually catch that till just now, but all the Phoenix died. So now there's only the Mothership Core and an overcharge to keep these medevacs out, and I think he's got a pretty good idea that this drop is about to come. Yeah, the overcharge goes off immediately, but that might not even matter. As the army gets drawn back into the natural base, this opens up a hole for these guys to go into the third. Recognizing this, Bling does send a couple more units back to defend, but HeroMarine simply doesn't have the damage in either of these locations. He lifts up out of the natural, taking only a couple of Marine losses. Cutting right here in the middle of the map. But upgrades on the way for sure, and Vikings coming out very soon. 2 right now, 2 more on the way. And there's that second starport I was talking about before. So this is looking alright for HeroMarine. He's the one applying pressure, but he's got to be very careful. Because if he looks away for like just a moment and force fields go down and this Colossus kill those Marines and Marauders, he is absolutely screwed for the late game. There's no ghosts here. He's got level 3 weapons on the way, but there's not going to be a whole lot of tech, and his production, granted, is only just now getting up. So for HeroMarine, this pressure that he's been applying has been nice, but we got to consider he hasn't gotten a whole lot of value for it. Granted, he's killed about 5 probes, but that Nexus was never re-killed. There was nothing over here that got canceled by any means. The drop was lifted off and evacuated immediately. But with 4 medevacs going strong to that natural base, he's certain to draw the attention of Bling over here. There's but 1 cannon to defend, and I believe the mothership core got picked off earlier. It did. So there's not even an overcharge available to defend this. This natural base is going to go down. You know, it's just like, if I can't kill the 3rd, just kill the natural. This is going to kill a lot of zealots, on the course that we're warping into defend, but that's not going to matter because there's nothing to stop this army. Even the pylon goes down to stop future warpers. Now the Nexus gets focused, and Bling, well, he can't just ignore this. He brings the Colossus back, but he can lift up and get out of here. There's no Stalkers. There's no Phoenix, as pointed out before. Losing that Nexus is going to hurt, that's for sure. Back at home, though, there's a probe. If there were some Zella Orphans, if there were some counterattacks going on, maybe this looks a little better for Bling. But that's a 3rd base canceled and a natural base just straight up killed. This really chews into his economy. Now you guys have to consider as well, if those Colossus did not come to defend and stayed at the 3rd, this Forge would have also fallen, and weapon upgrades are a little bit behind, but one of the few things that Bling really kind of needs. Armor's always nice versus Bio if you're focused on charge lots and storms. A big part of this is storm, it pierces armor, it's magic, it doesn't really care. But the Colossus weapon damage has been somewhat, I wouldn't say bad, because they still hit for 17 times 2, but it's not as crazy and out of control as it sometimes would be. A couple Stalkers are here to defend, and that's not going to be much. The base is going to get re-sniped, re-cancelled, however you want to look at this. And Bling pulls the Colossus back to defend it. Cancel goes down. He's actually going to stem on top of the Colossus, but still this hasn't afforded the opportunity to move into the 3rd. Now he did pre-overcharge, and I like that move because he didn't really know if that was coming or not, but rather than need it and not have it versus have it and not need it, he decides to just make sure he's safe than sorry. 4th command center on the way for HeroMarine, so he's still looking to expand behind this, and this production is looking good. You know, last time we took a look at the base, the reactors and the add-ons were only just finishing up. He was a couple of barracks shy of a good round here, but with 200 supply, guys, it's 139 for Bling. It's going to take the worst engagement possible out of HeroMarine for him to actually lose this fight. A couple of Blink Stalkers blink forward, but this should be more like 13 or 8, not 3 Blink Stalkers, so the Vikings have nothing to oppose them. He just backs away from the Colossus. Now that the Vikings have taken care of the job, now there's only Zealots and Stalkers remaining. It's not looking good, and HeroMarine will storm and stem to victory.